No? Okay.
Where is billing?
Cashier's office, that's the billing office. The student accounts office, it's the billing office. So where you go to put money on your print card, where you go to put money on like getting food, where you go to see Jim to see if you've gotten your refund. Questions about student insurance, that's where you're gonna go.
What if we register pay and then something comes up we're not able to attend? Is that program reimbursed? Or
We have to see at what time you're not able to go. It's all gonna be based on a timing of, can somebody else take your place and still reasonably be in there? Then we could talk about refunding it. If it's 2 weeks before the program starts, we aren't gonna be able to refund it.
So there's not like a specific withdrawal deadline date, like I decide I don't want to do it after I register, like in 2 weeks or something? It's just dependent on the situation?
It's gonna be one-on-one, yes. In the past, it's never been refundable. So we are trying to collectively come up with a fair and equitable way for the students. If you in 2 weeks say, I really can't do this, it's not gonna fit, I can't do it, and come in. If there's somebody on the wait list that can come in and take your place, then we'll refund the money to you.
But historically it hasn't.
Historically, it has not been.
And then another question, are then low-res students given first priority for registration? That's what it sounded like.
Slots have been set aside for the low residency students. The field courses historically began with the low residency program actually, because they have very few opportunities for taking electives. This is one of really 2 ways that they get face-to-face elective time with S.I.T. faculty. So we need to make sure that they have the opportunity and don't get crowded out by the students on campus. I don't mean that to sound so negatively, but we just need to make sure that there's enough space. That said, we need to make sure there's space for on-campus students. So instead of just saying we'll open it up and low-res get first shot, there are spaces reserved for on-campus students in each of the sections as well. So, and I should say, from a pedagogical perspective, we've had excellent feedback on the mixing of on-campus and low-res students. I hear that that actually is a highlight. Getting to meet more students who are out in the field doing the work is wonderful, and the low-res students love hearing about what's going on campus and what on-campus students bring to that experience too.
If we receive additional financial aid for costs such as airfare, visa fees, things like that, when are those funds dispersed to us for us to then make those preparations?
That's a great question. Did everyone hear that? If there's additional financial aid made available to you to cover these other costs, airfare, visas, etc., those funds will be released to you as soon as the aid has all been processed and assuming that your bill to S.I.T. has been paid in full. Last week was the first aid disbursement or aid release date of the fall term, right? That now occurs on a weekly basis as students in this situation, for example, have additional eligibility that's processed, as financial aid awards change, as we get other information. So as soon as all of the processing side has been taken care of, then those funds are released to you.
I have a question about credits, and if we're sort of maxed out on credits, can we take these courses for no credit?
For no credit? Because you're concerned about being charged extra?
Well, because we're only supposed to be taking like
18
36
credits,
credits in our time period in S.I.T.
Just because I'm just, I don't.
From a curricular perspective, I think most faculty would advise on-campus students to stay within that 36 credit maximum. It was set for a reason. If you're taking more than 36 credits, you're going to make yourself crazy. It's going to be difficult to do everything that you want to do and do it well and learn without going nuts. And history has shown that. So,
And it's spring. It's
yeah.
spring.
It counts towards the spring numbers.
Yeah.
If I would say priority will be, I think priority would be given to students who are taking the courses for credit to meet curricular requirements of their degrees. There is still a charge when students want to take a course and audit it, That would be the next layer down. So if there would still be space available, we would have to talk about that because we've never faced that situation, and I don't want to answer incorrectly in front of 40 people and 40 more on tape without checking with them who know the answer.
But don't know the answer at the moment.
Yeah. Who will?
Ken, will you be holding a meeting for those interested in videos for additional
Yes,
questions?
meetings will be October, November, December. We have lots of meetings, not too much, but just enough to get a sense of what the cultural context is, because we need to make sure we have that kind of semi-cultural immersion before we get there, because we're going to be doing work once we get there.
For the program fee, can we pay with credit card?
Yep.
Is there additional fee to that plan if we use a credit card?
No.
I heard her say it, so you're good.
It's on tape.
That too. Exactly.
Other questions?
For the 1 week on campus for the language intensives for the Turkey trip, is it possible for the students who live on campus to stay here, or do we have to find our own lodging?
I think last year people stayed on campus. I'd have to confirm, but last year they stayed on campus and just moved into their space back on campus.
I don't know if your meal plan would be kicked into working. In fact, I know your meal plan wouldn't be working, so you would have to pay for food.
They don't pay for when they come back for language intensive those, which is also the same time.
If they eat, they pay.
Do they pay extra for that?
Yeah.
All right.
Because their meal plan is not turned on until the start.
Oh, okay.
Question?
So with the language intensive, is there an extra fee associated with that on top of the
No.
200 program?
No.
So just to clarify for the Washington DC trips, I know there's 2 of them, so if like you wanted to do both, you'd have to pay 2 different prices for that, or?
It's $150 per course.
And we rarely have students taking both sections because more than half of the content is the same. It's about policy advocacy. In fact, I think you would need to request special permission to take 2 sections of one class because they are the same class, just 2 different sections.
Sorry, can I add something about the policy advocacy class? I don't know if it's clear from this but it says here the estimated costs out of pocket are about $150, but that's, I mean, you're responsible for your own transportation and room and board while you're down there. So, I mean, most people stay with S.I.T. alumni have been very generous to host students in the past or with friends or family or whoever, but, you know, if you're thinking you have to stay in a hotel and all that, we don't cover any of that, so that's something you have to budget in, and it would be more than $150. So.
What other questions do you have?
For the Barbados trip, are there any prerequisite courses to take? Or anything?
No, no prerequisite courses. No.
And another question, the dates of it, is there an overlap into the spring semester? Is there something that we're going to be missing, like the place where foundations was this semester, there's a chunk of time there? Is there something that we're going to have to make up at the end?
That's a good question. That's really good. I'm surprised nobody has asked that.
So the 3 international field courses take place during spring 1. That is what you will do during the spring 1 term. There are no required courses offered during spring 1. For students who aren't participating in a field course during spring 1, as soon as we know how many students will be out of the United States on field courses, the faculty and administration will be doing an assessment to see what courses can or should be offered here on campus. Last year we had an amazing diversity of 1-week workshops that went from Monday through Friday, a few weekend workshops. There were 1 or 2 sections of practitioner inquiry offered as well, so that students who were not traveling outside of the United States were able to do something and get credit during that time. I should say we also had students who chose to completely disengage from S.I.T. And they spent that 2 months with their sweethearts, and I know someone was in Chile and someone was in Italy and traveling, or with your family. Some people choose to do independent studies during that time as well.
I feel I need to be clear, there's no financial aid if you're gonna take off with your sweetheart for 2 years.
But there will
That
be a
was
party and perhaps a good time. We'll leave that to you. So again, we wanted to get a sense of how many people will be involved with the field courses first. Then we'll look at student interest, faculty availability to decide what courses will be offered here on campus during that time. Does that answer the question? Okay.
If you see there is like a huge want for this, is there the opportunity to open up more spots, or is this a set number?
It really is at the discretion of each faculty member. Each faculty member works with a local partner, and because there are arrangements to be made in advance and limitations, sometimes it's just the size of the van in Monrovia. If it fits 20 people and would cost another $3,000 to get a second, then the number is not going to be raised. So it's completely dependent on each specific program and at the discretion of the faculty member who's working in conjunction with their partner. And that's also one of the reasons why we cannot guarantee refunds. Many of the expenses are paid in advance. So there's a rationale for that policy behind the scenes. And there was another question.
When do spring 2 classes start?
Right after President's Weekend, which is like the third week in February? 17th. Yeah.
Monday, February 18th is the first day of spring 2. Thank goodness for calendars.
So your 2 programs come back in time for spring 2.
Yes, because we run from the 20th of January until the 9th of February. So you have a week in between to enjoy the whatever.
And with Liberia,
And it's the same thing with Liberia, that you will be back in time for that reading week between spring 1 and spring 2. You'll be back.
And in Turkey, we end weeks earlier than these other 2 programs, and what's happened in the past is usually students use that to travel. Unless you're coming back here for a specific, one of the end of spring 1 courses. So.
Questions?
I actually have a question about the Barbados trip. So it's 2 weeks in Barbados, and then Trinidad is how long?
Yes, a little over 2 weeks in Barbados and about 4 to 5 days in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, so the total trip is about 3 weeks long?
Total
Okay.
3 weeks, right?
That's great.
Other questions?
So for the Turkey trip, there's an extra credit for the design and delivery. Can you just elaborate on
Oh
that?
yeah, it's an independent study. What I have found in the past is that a lot of times people have an interest in program design, and so they've been in it as a student, but they're also watching it unfold. And so every year there's been a few folks that have wanted to do an optional independent study credit and look at the process of. And so they do a couple of interviews in country of people who have been connected with organizing the program, and then we write that up after you guys get back.
So that takes place before, during, and after?
It's usually during and after.
Linda, do students need to register for that next week, or can
No,
they register for it
Just you
later?
register for the 2 credit intercultural communications course, and then we'll see who's interested in doing the independent study.
This question might really vary depending on which of these programs it is, but I'm a little confused about what the program fee covers in terms of, because we pay this fee that covers certain expenses, but then there are certain other things like we book our own flights and things like that. So does that extend into if we find cheaper accommodations then we can pay less, or things like how set do certain aspects of those costs have to be compared to what we're able to shop around for?
Is it safe to say that students will need to stay in the organized accommodations for each program?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so The accommodations will be set for you, and this is a question that would be wonderful to explore in an independent study. Imagine having 20 people staying in 10 different places all over Monrovia, or Istanbul even, and then being asked to provide directions to the 9 a.m. meeting. Huh.
Actually, we've done that the first year, and that was something we knew not to do the second year.
There you go.
So
Heidi can tell you all about that.
I have a question then. Okay, if students can't look for their own accommodations and they paid their $550 for their program fee, are the students expected to hand the balance to the faculty person? And do you pay for everything from there on out?
Not for Turkey. I mean, in my program fee, clearly everybody should answer this on their own. My program fee includes the 5 days of hotel, all of the group transport that we do, an orientation dinner, the guide, because none of us are going to have enough Turkish to be able to manage everything that we need to manage, so we need a guide with us. Presenter fees, because we do NGO visits, so that takes care of that. The folks will pay for their airfare. If we do independent metro traffic, spending money, and then there may be an occasional lunch, like if we're out at community meetings or we're Istanbul's the 5th largest country in the world. So there are times when you can't get back to a homestead for a lunch. So you'll have to, that we included a little bit for some of the lunches. And I think the visa was $25 last year. So those are all things we would pick up.
Charlie, do you want to offer an
Sure. In the case of Liberia, it's not exactly that way, but the program costs would cover all group activities in country. They also cover my travel. I think that's probably true with others as well. They would cover 2 or 3 luncheons and meetings that the entire group has. The other costs in terms of accommodations, it's based on double occupancy in a guest house. So each person will be paying right around $10, counting on the double occupancy. It's up to maybe $15 if you eat a lot, or you want to go out to a restaurant. You can buy a lot of bananas and all kinds of things right on the street that's safe to eat. I got by with very little expense, and you can too.
And Ken, what
Yes,
about?
a couple of things. Safety is my #1 issue. My job is to bring you back home in one piece. Trinidad is a dangerous environment. I live there, and I can tell you certain things that you're not going to be able to do because I have to bring you back safe. Your parents will not, and S.I.T will not allow me to teach here anymore if I don't bring you back safe. That being said, accommodation, I make the decision because I know the area, I know the territory. And some places are going to be more expensive than others, and the safest places, we are going to go around and get involved in all kinds of stuff. But when we leave certain places and come home, it must be a place of safety. And we're going to be going into some very dangerous environments, etc. I don't want anyone to follow us home and then try to check you out beyond, because we say no fraternizing with the locals. If you want to fraternize, you come back and then you fly back down. So all those things are factored into our safety pieces. So accommodation, I make a decision on that because of safety, etc. There are lots of things involved. You're going to have to trust us on this particular one. People follow you in Trinidad and Tobago, and I know how to get around that by doing what is necessary. So we're going to take care of accommodation for it. So safety is #1, right? Right.
So clarification, details on the costs were provided on the course descriptions that were sent by email to everybody. They are not on the hard copies, which are back here. These were left over from the course fair, and I was just trying to save paper, so I didn't print out 50 copies of each of 4 courses yet again. Check your emails, and the course breakdown is included on those information sheets. It is just about 1:30 and people are leaving for folks on tape who can't see. If you have remaining questions, we all will hang around for a while. And otherwise, come visit Michelle, ask questions, contact the faculty with questions. Low-res folks, I'll be sending you more information about your particular circumstances as well. Thanks, everybody.